So I've been reading Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Week. I'm partway through, it's very interesting. What I love is his description of the new rich, not to be confused with what we might have thought, certainly in this country, of the nouveau riche, which was really a comparison between old and new money that we had in the 80s and 90s. But the new rich are a group of individuals that in the main are making money online and usually creating some kind of a passive income as well. So in other words, whilst they're not working, their income is still flowing in. What I love in particular is, first of all, his question of what is the opposite of happiness? And of course, a lot of people would say the opposite of happiness is sadness. Well, in his opinion, that's wrong, and I agree with that. Because really they're both sides of the same coin. Like pain and pleasure, you can quite often experience pain in a pleasurable fashion. But his opinion is the opposite of happiness is boredom. And I love that because it's true, isn't it? Let's face it. Especially us parents. You get to the stage where you accumulate things in your life, children, house, dog, whatever it might be. All of these things are lovely things, but they also act as elements of responsibility. They act as elements of things that take up your time. And that is the crucial bit about the new rich. The new rich may not necessarily be as rich as other folk, but they're time rich. So rather than monetarily rich, they will still have a very good income, but they are time rich. They know what to do with their time to enable them to prevent things like boredom, to do exciting things. And in fact, that word there, excitement, is one of the key things he proposes we should all aim for. We need to aim for the things that excite us. And that is true, isn't it? Again, especially us parents, because when you become a parent, when you get married or whatever, you get a house, blah, 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 all those things that we accumulate through life, so much of your time, you think, disappears. So all the time that we used to have when we were single or just young, we would spend time rock climbing, cycling, doing whatever, sailing, all the things that used to provide excitement. Well, quite often you stop doing those things when that time seems to disappear. What Tim proposes is that you should aim, therefore, to find things that excite you, to crowbar them into your life. His idea, and obviously I'm partway through the book at this stage, is that if you are employed, then his trick, as it were, is to create your job in such a fashion where you can have flexible working, in other words, working from home. By creating that working from home environment, that frees up your time to do other things. And those other things will be, in part, creating something that will enable you to give up your job, but also it will add in extra hours in your life in which you can do those exciting things. And really, when you think about it as a parent, what would your child love to see in you? Do they, obviously, depending on their age, that's the kind of question that they wouldn't necessarily be able to answer. Subconsciously, and certainly at a future point in their life, they'd like to be able to see that their parents were genuinely excited by things, that their parents genuinely looked forward to things, more than just the once a year holiday, that they did things at the weekend that excited them, because that's what your children need to see. They need to see how you act. They need to see how you find fun and enjoyment in life, because that's how they learn, isn't it? In his book, Tim proposes that the new rich, as mentioned earlier, may not be as wealthy as other rich folk. And he suggests, as an example, somebody working for a business services organization or a large corporate in which they're on 6-figure plus salary. They are working 70, 80-hour weeks. In their mind, they're thinking, this is exactly what I should be doing. I'm not only putting food on the table, I'm at the top of the food chain, I'm climbing the ladder, I've got success, I have power, whatever floats their boat. If you, number one, break down their hourly rate, for many of them, they're on the same hourly rate as somebody on half the salary. But that aside, if you break down the amount of hours they're putting into their job versus the enjoyment they get out of life, and of course, for most of them, they will enjoy parts of their role. But really, they're working non-stop in order to bring home the bacon. They are working beyond the normal working week of most folk out there. In other words, they're going beyond the levels at which your brain can cope with that much work. So actually the efficiency in terms of the work that they're creating is certainly not as good as it could be had they, or were they able to, reduce the amount of hours they're putting in. A lot of the time it's still that old-fashioned mentality of putting in the hours equals putting in a good day's job. So, oh look, I got in at 7:30 this morning, I'm still here at 8, 9 o'clock in the evening. Surely, therefore, I'm an effective employee, which is very old-fashioned. And still, many of these businesses run like that. So, anyway, my ramble for the day, Evolution of Dave, signing off. Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Week, available on Amazon. And I would suggest certainly reading Tim Ferriss's book. It seems like a good read so far, amongst the many that sit on my bedside table by the bed. Mr. Florence signing off. Bye bye bye.